It's kind of cool to have these compared because it's kind of got like a hint of mud grap. What's going on, guys? So we're about to sell the 24s, but I figured before we did that, we had to do a comparison video between these two because these are probably the two most popular setups that people go with. Over here, we got the 20-inch replica wheel with the 35-1250 Nitto Mudgrappler. Then over here, we've got the 24x12 -44 with the 33-1250 Wildtraxx MT. So obviously with the stock offset, you can run a larger tire like this on the truck, give it that kind of Bubba stuffed look because it's not sticking out past the fenders. You usually don't have to do that much trimming to stuff a 35 on the OE offset. If you go with the offset like this, has a -44, it's sticking out past the fenders, and that means when you turn, it's obviously going to be getting into the front and back of your fenders. So you can't run quite as tall of tires, so you have to run a 33 on here. This one does rub a little bit more than this setup even after trimming, so 9 times out of 10, if you have stock or rep wheels, you're going to be able to run a much taller tire with a lot less trimming versus if you do offset even with a much smaller tire, you're going to have to trim a lot. So anyways, today I'm just going to throw them up head to head before we get rid of the 24s, measure them out, weigh them, see all the differences, and then I've got some clips of both of these wheels on the truck. I'll throw those up side to side, and y'all can tell me which one you prefer on the truck. This is also hilarious and shows you just how dramatic a wheel and tire swap is. I mean, those looked good before, but once you put those on there, those don't look good anymore. 35-12-50 20, 33-12-50 24. Let's go ahead and measure them, see if they come out true to size. So with the mud grap, we are looking right dead on 35 inches tall. I don't know if y'all can see that. That looks pretty much just like 35 inches to me. Come over here. We got the 33. Oh, we are running small. So right at 32 inches, honestly, maybe just a hair, 32 1/4. So running a little bit small on the Wildtraxx MT. Let's go ahead and check the width. Both of these tires are 1250 wide, but as you can see, the Wildtraxx MT is definitely a very wide looking tire. We'll start with the mud grap, try to get it true to size. I mean, it's gonna measure out from outside sidewall lug to outside sidewall lug. It's like 13 1/4, honestly. If we go lug to lug, it's like 11 3/4. But the true tire, we'll say just from this ridge right here to there, it's going to be right at 12 inches wide. Let's go over here to the Wildtraxx MT, which looks stupid wide. Start out just from the outside lug. I mean, it's like 13 3/4, honestly. If we go lug to lug on the inside, it's right at 12 inches. So this tire definitely does run true to width. It looks incredibly wide as a wild flat wagon drives off in the very far distance. So this is going to be the biggest difference between the two setups, and this is obviously the most controversial, where some people will say they dislike this setup because there's not enough sidewall. And I don't think it's that they necessarily dislike the wheel size, it's just that the tire size is not big enough for them to like the sidewall size. So if you ran like a 40 on this, they'd probably like this whole setup. But a 33 on a 24, you're obviously going to have a fairly small amount of sidewall. So if we measure it out, we're looking right at 3 1/4 maybe on our sidewall right here. We come over here to the 35 on the 20. We're looking at like 6 1/2, right at 6 1/2. So literally you're doubling your sidewall with a 20 and a 35 versus a 24 on a 33. So like I said, that's the most controversial part right there. Some people will say this automatically rides terrible because they've never had this setup and it's got a small amount of sidewall. I can hear firsthand tell you that's not the case. Both these tires ride fairly similar. This one can be smoother in certain cases because if you hit a major pothole, yes, this does have more to absorb, but regular divots and stuff in the road, both of these absorb them pretty much the same. So your actual tread depth between the two is fairly similar height-wise, but the Mudgrap looks so much more aggressive because there is a ton more spacing between the lugs. Obviously, that's why everybody loves the Mudgraps. They're super, super aggressive, right? But the height, brand new, which is kind of cool to have these compared because it's kind of got like a hint of Mudgrap in these. See the little claw? They are very similar in that aspect, but probably has a little bit more tread depth on the Mudgrap. Like I said, obviously way more spacing between the lugs. Both these tires very loud. This is a much more enjoyable loud tire to me. This is a loud tire, but can definitely get annoying. It's got kind of an annoying pitch to it. All right, for the moment of truth, let's see which one weighs the most. I'm gonna bet this one does, but this is definitely not a light setup either. And obviously it's not super scientific on this scale. We're gonna get it pretty close. So I'm not putting any weight on it. I'm just holding the tire up. And that's right at like 118 pounds. Right there, that's like it's like 120. I'm just pushing and just trying to ease off. That's just keeping it from falling over. So we're gonna say right at 120 pounds for the 24s and 33s. Let's try out the big boys. Obviously less material wheel-wise, but more rubber. Usually more wheel is heavier. But let's see. Wow. So if I just hold that up, let me see if I'm on the lug or something. I mean, that is just ridiculously close. That's within a couple pounds of each other. That right there is saying like 100 and 115. If I lean back to where it's kind of going to try to fall, it's right at 118, 120. So yes. Super, super similar. That's actually pretty surprising that they are both right at that 120 pound a wheel and tire. Obviously you can tell from that right there, that's why you're going to suffer performance wise and fuel economy wise, because your truck's having to push a lot more rotational weight. Now, which one actually affects your gas mileage worse? I'm going to probably say it would be the taller tire if the weights are about the same. However, this being a very wide tire, you are going to have more contact on the pavement. That's more resistance. So it's probably a toss-up, but I'd probably say the taller tire with that extra weight is going to give you more rotational resistance. So probably would say that the 35, same weight relatively to this, is going to cost you more performance and more weight. But overall, I think these are both great setups. I love both of them. I'm going to be sad to see the 24s go, but I don't need them. I'm not putting them back on Larry. They're not going back on this truck. This is the new permanent, we'll see, setup for the Sierra, which I also want to get some big reps for comparison's sake with the 20s and 35s, but we'll talk about that later. So yeah, I'm about to actually load these things up and meet a guy. So before I do that, I wanted to have this comparison for y'all. Now I can throw my other wheel back on the back of Chomper back there, because yeah. But anyways, hopefully y'all did enjoy. Comment down below. Let me know if you were surprised by maybe Nitto being true to size, Wildtraxx not being necessarily true to size height wise, but being overabundant width wise. If you were surprised that this setup weighs as much as this setup over here, basically. And with all that being said, hopefully you did enjoy. I'll see y'all in the next one.